The Indian Child Bride and the Old Arab Husband by Dr. A. Ahmed. This is a continuation of the story The Arab Sugar Daddy and the Beautiful Indian Girl. It was written in English and translated into Arabic by Dr. A. Ahmed. It is a novel written in 6 books. Book 2, The Arab Sugar Daddy turns into the Granddaddy, the Devil. Copyright. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, restored, a tribal system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by the reviewer, who may quote brief passages from the review for printing in a general magazine, a school journal, or a university article. All characters in this novel are fictitious, and any resemblance to real people, living or dead, is purely coincidental. Chapter 1. Practicing tying on female children. There is an evil practice among the Arabs called mufakhazat al-siqar, loosely translated as the practice of tying on small female children. There is no proper English translation for this practice simply because it is not a Western custom. The tie is a part in humans between the hip and the knee. The nearest evil act to the practicing tying on female children in English would probably be child molesting. However, practicing tying on female children is infinitely more evil than child molesting. It is done by an adult man to a female child with the sanction of religion. Now let us see how it is practiced on a female child and who began this evil practice. According to an official fatwa issued in Saudi Arabia, the Prophet Muhammad began to practice tying his child bride Aisha when she was 6 years old until she reached 9 years of age. Fatwa number 31,409. There is an authentic hadith of the Prophet Muhammad which mentioned that he started it performing literal sex with Aisha only when she reached the age of 9. Sahih al-Bukhari, book 62, hadith number 89. Therefore, Muslim scholars collectively agreed by virtue of divine example that a female child becomes an adult available for sexual intercourse as soon as she reaches the age of 9. Likewise, the Sharia allows any Muslim man to marry a 6-year-old female child. According to the fatwa, the Prophet Muhammad could not have sex with his fiancée Aisha when she was 6 due to her small size and age. Howbeit, the fatwa said that at age 6 he would put his penis between her thighs and massage it gently because he did not want to harm her. Imagine a man of 51 years of age removing the clothes of a 6-year-old child and sleeping his erect penis between her thighs, rubbing her until he ejaculated and his semen ran down all over her thighs. To this day, this is considered a benevolent act on the part of the adult male not wanting to harm her. What harm could be inflicted upon an underage child girl, mentally and emotionally, if not a grown man showing her his erect penis and stripping her of her clothes and underwear and rubbing his phallus between her legs? Of course, the twisted mind that does such evil to an underage female child would not hesitate to ejaculate on her body. And if this sexually perverted evil frame of mind committed such an act upon a female child, the pedophile would not stop ejaculating on her. His evil desire might go further and rape the female child before she is a mature adult. This is exactly what Muhammad did to Aisha when she was yet a child of 9 years. Before she reached puberty, he began to have sex with her. Even Aisha exposed her abuser and rapist in many hadiths. She mentioned that Muhammad married her when she was a mere child, and and she used to play with her dolls while she was in his house. Aisha narrated that I used to play with the dolls in the presence of the Prophet, and my girlfriends also used to play with me. When Allah's apostle used to enter to us, they used to hide, but the Prophet would call them to join and play with me. Sahih al-Bukhari, volume 8, book 73, hadith number 151. This hadith had been explained by the renowned Muslim explainer Fath al-Bari. The playing with dolls and similar images is forbidden, but it was allowed for Aisha at that time as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty. Fath al-Bari, volume 13, page 143. Having proven that scandalous and evil marriage, let us now see what the modern fatwa said about the Prophet of Islam and his underage female child bride, Aisha. Praise be to Allah and peace be upon the one after whom there is no further prophet, after the Birmingham Committee for the Scientific Research and Fatwas, religious, divinely guided decrees, reviewed the question presented to the Grand Mufti Abdullah Muhammad al-Shammari. The question was forwarded to the committee by the Grand Scholar of the committee with references number 1809 issued on 3/8/1421 Islamic calendar. The inquirer asked the following: it has become widespread these days, and especially during weddings, the habit of mufakhazat al-siqar of small children. This Arabic phrase literally means placing the penis between the thighs of a female child. In other words, it can be translated as placing the male phallus between the thighs of a female child to get sexual pleasure. What is the opinion of scholars, knowing full well that the Prophet, may the praise and peace of Allah be upon him, also practiced the tying of Aisha, the mother of believers? May Allah be pleased with her. After the committee studied the issue, they gave the following reply: it has not been the practice of the Muslims throughout the centuries to resort to this unlawful practice that has come to our countries from pornographic movies, al-kuffar, the Western infidels, and the other enemies of Islam sent to us. As for the Prophet, peace and praise of Allah be upon him, tying his fiancée Aisha, she was 6 years of age, and he could not have intercourse with her due to her small age. That is why the Prophet, peace and praise of Allah be upon him, blesses his penis between her thighs and massages it lightly, as the apostle of Allah had control of his penis, not like other believers. Two quick observations about this immoral and evil fatwa. Firstly, the fatwa said the Prophet Muhammad had practiced female child tying on his fiancée Aisha and not his wife Aisha. That means he had sexually abused and molested Aisha before he married her. Secondly, the fatwa said Muslims learn to practice tying of female children from the pornographic movies the Western infidels create and send to the Muslim world. But then the fatwa contradicted itself when it said the Prophet Muhammad was the one who practiced tying his fiancée Aisha because she was 6 years of age and he could not have intercourse with her due to her small age. That is why the Prophet, peace and praise of Allah be upon him, blessed his penis between her thighs and massaged it lightly. That means Muslim men learn to practice the tying of female children from the example of the child abuser, the alleged prophet of God Muhammad, and not from the Western infidels and their pornographic movies. Muhammad and his female child bride lived in the 7th century, and videos and pornographic movies are the invention of the modern time in the 28th century. So the Prophet Muhammad was the inventor, teacher, and true culprit of this evil crime against female children, and not the creation of the so-called Western infidels. Practicing tying of female children is practiced in many Arab and Muslim countries, notably in Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Iraq, Iran, and the other Gulf countries. These countries are notoriously known for this evil practice. According to the Bahraini women's rights activist Ghada Gamsher, there are many more such immoral practice against female children, like التمتع بالمفاخذة, pleasure from sexual contact with her thighs, التمتع بالمكعبة, pleasure from sexual contact with her breast, التمتع بالصغيرة, pleasure from sexual contact with a baby girl, التمتع بالرضيعة, pleasure from sexual contact with a suckling female, by Bahrain woman rights activist Ghada Gamsher. The Islamic Sharia authorizes a grown-up man to marry even a 9-year-old female child. It is quite common to see a man of 70 or 80 years of age marrying a female child of 8 or 10 years. Recently, an 80-year-old Saudi man married a 10-year-old child. On the wedding night, the child's private part hemorrhaged so badly that they had to take her to the hospital. Another recent case was of a Yemeni man who raped his child bride on his first wedding night until she died. These are just a handful of the thousands of rapes of female children that take place each year, legalized by Islamic child marriage, following the evil example of the Prophet Muhammad with his 9-year-old female bride Aisha. Chapter 2. The Barbie Dolls. The poisonous cobra Saudi woman Mrs. Ahmed has allowed the daughter of the detained Indian maid servant Iffat to stay in her mansion for 1 week before eventually she convinced her Arab husband to take her away. The evil Mastura hates Iffat with a passion and despises her mother Rehana with bitterness. Whenever she sees her, she sees the face of her mother. Iffat is not only an exact copy of her mother, but she looks as if her mother Rehana had cloned her without a father. She has the same beautiful eyes, the same golden color, the same hair, and the same mole on the middle of her left cheek. If Iffat stood among 1,000 underage Indian girls, no one would confuse her with any other woman except her mother Rehana. The only differences between her mother and her are their age and the size of their bodies. Her mother is a bit heavier and has a larger backside. Iffat might develop a more voluptuous body over time, much like her mother's once she started to develop into a young woman. The situation of her resemblance to her mother created a profoundly serious problem for her, where she is staying. The two evil teenage sons are hovering over her as as eagles hovering over the kick of a hen or the carcass of a dead animal, while their wicked mother is forcing the small daughter of the Indian maidservant to do work that her mother used to do for her. Even so, the snake woman said to her husband that her good and noble sons might rape the small girl if he does not take her away before it is too late. She also said she is keeping the Indian underage girl at night sleeping on the floor of her bedroom so that her teenage sons might not get a chance to rape her if she is left alone in her small room. Her husband understood her concern and agreed to take away the small girl. After the unexpected arrest of her mother, Sheikh Ahmed looked at Iffat as a heavy burden. At first, he did not know what to do with her for a certain time. She has no address of her own in India. The old Saudi man knew that Iffat used to live with her mother in a hut in a slum without an address. He knows that the address on her passport is the address of the Sudanese boy Babikir, who is awaiting trial for drug smuggling in Bombay. She has no guardian whom he knows of at this point. Her mother informed him that her husband had died a couple of years ago. The Saudi Sheikh Ahmed does not know any of her Indian relatives in Bombay. Even if he decided to send her back to India, where should he send her and to whom? If he wanted to keep her, how long should he keep her in his house? Which one of his wives would agree to raise a female child that is not her own? Besides, the scandal of her mother would be a stigma which would follow her wherever she went for the rest of her life, or wherever he would take her. At first, Sheikh Ahmed decided to keep Iffat in the house of his wife, his first wife, until he could talk to the Indian consulate at Jeddah city and convince them to take her away from him and send her wherever they wanted it to send her. He thinks that the Indian government might find a wealthy Indian family to adopt her. Those thoughts and worries are going on in the mind of Sheikh Ahmed on the day he transferred the little daughter of Rehana from his first wife's house to the house of wife number one. His Pakistani driver is driving him in his Mercedes while the 7-year-old girl Iffat is sitting near him in the back seat. She is playing with her beautiful Barbie dolls. When the old man saw the small female child so engaged in playing with her beautiful Barbie dolls, he gazed at her how innocent she was. She seemed unfazed by the mysterious disappearance of her Indian mother. His wicked Arab wife repeatedly told Iffat in his presence that her mother went to jail because she was a professional prostitute and dirty thief. But the little girl did not understand Arabic. On the contrary, her husband had taken the trouble to tell Iffat through his Pakistani chauffeur that her mother had gone to a place far away, and he told her that she might not come back for a long time. He deliberately left out that she would be stoned to death after sentencing by the Sharia court. He figured that little Iffat would come to know about this tragedy once she was older. The lovely dolls lying in the little girl Iffat's lap and her hands have suddenly reminded Sheikh Ahmed of a story he read about his Prophet Muhammad. May the praise and peace of Allah be upon him. He remembered that the beloved wife of the Prophet Muhammad, Aisha bint Abu Bakr, used to play with dolls at the time he married her. Even Aisha admitted that the Prophet married her when she was 6 years old, and she is still playing with dolls and consummated it his marriage with her when she was 9 years old. Before we see where Sheikh Ahmed's mind is going to take him with this devilish idea, we should confirm his claim that his prophet married a female child of 6 years old when she used to play with dolls at the time of their marriage and had sex with her when she reached 9 years. Aisha herself narrated that I used to play with the dolls in the presence of the prophet, and my girlfriends also used to play with me. When Allah's apostle used to enter to us, they used to hide, but the prophet would call them to join and play with me. Sahih al-Bukhari, volume 8, book 73, hadith number 151. This hadith is explained by the renowned Muslim scholar Fath al-Bari. The playing with dolls and similar images is forbidden, but it was allowed for Aisha at that time as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty. Fath al-Bari, volume 13, page 143. The Prophet wrote the marriage contract with Aisha while she was 6 years old and consummated his marriage with her while she was 9 years old, and she remained with him for 9 years till his death. Sahih al-Bukhari, book 62, hadith number 89. Aisha, Allah be pleased with her, reported it. Allah's apostle, may peace be upon him, married me when I was 6 years old, and I was admitted to his house when I was 9 years old. Sahih Muslim, book 8, hadith number 3310. Aisha, Allah be pleased with her, reported that Allah's apostle, may peace be upon him, married her when she was 7 years old, and she was taken to his house as a bride when she was 9, and her dolls were with her. And when he, the Holy Prophet, died, she was 18 years old. Sahih Muslim, book 8, hadith number 3311. Notice that Sahih Muslim mentioned in a hadith that Aisha was a 7-year-old child, and in the next hadith she was 6 years old. However, both Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim agreed upon her age was 9 years when the marriage was consummated, and both mentioned that she used to play with dolls at the time of her marriage. Well, Sheikh Faiz bin Ahmed is right, and his memory is vivid with regards to the age and the childish behavior of the beloved female child, bride of his prophet. The Prophet Muhammad married Aisha when she was 6 years old, and he began to have sex with her when she was 9 years old, and while she was still playing with her dolls. The dolls of Iffat and the dolls of Aisha suddenly solved the problem of Sheikh Ahmed. At this junction, a devilish idea leaped into his evil mind, and he decided to carry it out in real life. He asked himself, why should I not follow the example of my gracious and infallible Prophet Muhammad and marry the 7-year-old little girl Iffat? The female child of the Indian maidservant Iffat was 7 years old and 11 months when Sheikh Ahmed decided to marry her. He is an old geezer of the age of 70 years. Howbeit, he knows that legally he would not be able to marry her for 2 reasons. First of all, he already has 4 wives, and the Sharia would not allow him to marry a 5th wife unless one of his wives died or got divorced by him. Secondly, Saudi law does not allow him to marry a female foreigner, even if she is a Muslimah and an Arab girl like him. Even so, his scheming mind quickly found a way around that particular obstacle. He would divorce one of his 4 wives, and in so doing, his Sharia law would allow him to marry a new wife. Islamic law places the right to divorce entirely in the hands of the man and does not require him to give any reason for divorcing his wife. He can just say to his spouse, you are divorced and the divorce will take place. No mazun, no Sharia court, no witnesses, and no divorce certificate are required. Moreover, the man is not like the divorced woman or a widowed wife. He needs to wait for 3 months and 10 days before remarrying another woman. He can divorce one wife today and marry another one tomorrow. Al-Hassan, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, used to divorce 4 wives in one go and marry another set of 4 women on the same day. He was a marriage addict. He married 200 wives plus his uncountable number of right-hand possession or female slaves. The Prophet Muhammad praised him for his ability to marry such an unbelievable number of women. Regarding the Saudi law restriction around foreign brides, Sheikh Ahmed knows that is just a man-made law. Sharia law never forbids marriage to a foreign woman or an underage female child. He had already married a Christian girl in India, the lovely Christy, who was not a Saudi girl, and consummated his marriage with her. They lived together for 18 months before she cheated on him and divorced him through the Bombay Divorce Court. Regarding which wife the notorious womanizer Sheikh Ahmed should divorce, 2 immediately popped into his mind. He should either divorce the first wife from whom he has just taken the little daughter of his detained maidservant away from her house, or the first wife he is taking Iffat to. The first wife is ugly, skinny, always complaining, and hard to please. His third wife is obese, ugly, and evil like him. The second wife is an old and decrepit woman. His first wife is old and dying of cancer. Twirling the idea in his mind, Sheikh Ahmed dismissed the idea of divorcing Mastura for fear of losing her father's business favor. He then understandably decided to divorce Khadija, wife number 1, so that he could upgrade. After coming to that conclusion, Sheikh Ahmed began to justify this decision in his head. He has concluded that Rehana Khan had used him to come to Saudi Arabia for her to be with her Indian lover Aslam Ali Khan. He reasoned that she lied about being raped by 2 Saudi policemen and rescued by a Bedouin family. She might also have just allowed the 2 police officers to have sex with her as a sexual bribe, and then she asked them to release her and then drop her off at her Indian lover's apartment. If that Indian man, Aslam Ali Khan, is not her lover, why did she agree to marry him? When he convinced her to marry his chauffeur, Sabir Abran Shah, why did she not mention that she had already gotten married to another man? Why didn't her first husband phone him or come to demand his wife back? What husband would keep quiet and do nothing if another man came and took away his wife from a beauty salon? He remembered he had given his business card to the woman owner of the salon. Most probably, the Philippine woman had given his phone number and address to her first husband, to the first husband Rehana waited when he came and did not find her. So Sheikh Ahmed concluded that Rehana is either truly a professional prostitute or a big cheater woman who used him to come to Saudi Arabia so that she could be with her Indian boyfriend. Satisfied with his logic, he now felt justified in forsaking the love He fell for her and leaving her to face her, her anticipated demise through stoning to death. Therefore, this justification left him free to marry her daughter Iffat. In the back of his mind, Sheikh Ahmed remembered that he had already been cheated by two beautiful Indian women, Christian Rehana. There would not be a third Indian woman. His mind is now made up about marrying the little girl Iffat, but a few obstacles still stand in the way. How could he marry her, and where should he keep her? He knows the Sharia law would not allow him to marry a 7-year-old girl. He knows that the Sharia law would allow him to marry a 7-year-old girl, but the Saudi law forbids marrying female foreigners. Even if he married her secretly, where would he keep her? At first, the old geezer thought of marrying Iffat and keeping her in another Muslim country. But which country should he choose? Several Muslim countries popped up immediately in his mind: Somalia, Sudan, Eritrea, Djibouti, Libya, Yemen, Indonesia, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Iraq, Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Burkina Faso. In fact, there are 57 Muslim countries, but these are the only ones that popped up into his mind. All of these lands are Muslim countries and allow child marriages. He decided to write the name of each country on a piece of paper and fold it up, and then ask his to-be child bride Iffat to pick a piece of paper, and whatever she picked from the lot would be her country. Albeit, on second thought, he dismissed that idea. If he sent his soon-to-be child bride out of the country, he's afraid that when she grew up, she might find another boyfriend and run away with him. He recollected the mistake he had made by marrying the infidel Christian girl Christy, only for her to cheat on him with her uncircumcised boyfriend in his house and fornicating day and night with her Indian lover while they were using his money and house. She then abruptly dumped him like a trash because of her mad love for her infidel dog, her lover Bobby. But before the Sheikh could conclude, the car reached the house of wife number 1. Chapter 3. Preparing for marrying the child bride. The Saudi old man Sheikh Ahmed intends to marry the underage female child of his detained Indian maidservant and practice tying on her until she reaches the age of 9. At the time, the little girl Iffat is almost 8. She is 7 years and 11 months old. She does not even know what sex is. When she saw her mother stripped naked by the two evil policemen in the desert, she thought they were killing her. When the Saudi policeman took her out of the police car, showed her his male penis, and tried to force her to hold it in her hand, she did not have an inkling about what he was trying to do to her. What she did know is that it is wrong to show your private parts in public, and she resisted his attempts to force her to use her hand to masturbate. As it turned out, the sacrifice of a mother who offered herself up to the two policemen for raping her simultaneously prevented her little daughter Iffat from being raped. Alas, now with her mother unjustly incarcerated and awaiting for her execution, Iffat lost her one and only female guardian with no one to protect her from life's evil. Upon reaching the house of his fairest wife Khadija, Sheikh Ahmad changed his mind. He told his wife he was going to send the daughter of his Indian maidservant to her family in India. After a few days, his fairest wife agreed to keep Iffat in her house. He did not tell his wife that he was planning to divorce her and marry the little girl in her place. Sheikh Ahmad's fairest wife is bedridden, suffering from the last stages of cancer. She could die at any moment, but her selfish husband could not wait for her to die. He had remarried her after divorcing her to marry his Indian wife, Christy. After his Christian wife divorced him, kicked him out of his house in Bombay, brought her handsome Christian boyfriend, Bobby, and married him, Sheikh Ahmad once again remarried his fairest wife, Khadija, just to show off that he is a kind husband. But now circumstances are different, and for all wants and purposes, he is willing to send Khadija to the grave as a divorcee. Death for Muslim women generally means going to hell. The Prophet Muhammad said that the majority of Muslim women would end up in hellfire and they will burn forever. The Muslim man, in abject contrast, is promised 72 beautiful and eternal virgins in paradise. But the Muslim woman can look forward to burning in hell for all eternity with Iblis the devil and his demons and human followers. Sheikh Ahmad has a never-ending evil mentality and worked out a new plan to marry his child bride. Aisha, I meant to say Iffat, following the unrighteousness of his alleged prophet of God, he figured that the safest country for his new marriage to a foreign female was to send her to Eritrea, marry her, and keep her there permanently. He has learned from some Eritreans in Saudi Arabia that Eritrea is well known for female child marriages. Most Eritreans traditionally give their female children in marriage as soon as they have reached 7, 8, or 9 years of age. Sheikh Ahmed knows that Islam forbids adoption, so he could not try to adopt Iffat and then pretend she is his daughter while she would be his wife undercover. He could do that by making her get married to his castrated beam. But he then anticipated that one day someone from the media or the Indian government might ask him the whereabouts of the daughter of his condemned Indian maidservant. Therefore, he planned to send Iffat to Eritrea via India. If he is asked about the female child of his imprisoned Indian maidservant, he could say that he had sent her to her relatives in Bombay. He knows no one is going to search for a small girl in a hut without an address in the largest slum in Asia, in the cosmopolitan city of Bombay, which has 19 million people. The old Saudi fears taking Iffat himself because he expected his bitterest enemy, and former Indian chauffeur Muhammad Khan, might find out about his arrival in Bombay and send some dangerous underworld mafia of the Bombay Gundas to kill him. He knows that an evil Indian man, he knows that an evil Indian man has spies everywhere, including the international airport. To avoid fatal retribution, he decided it would be safer to send the Pakistani chauffeur to travel with little Indian girl Iffat. Howbeit, This well-sought plan did not work out too well, as Sabir's application for a visa at the Indian consulate in Jeddah was brutally rejected because he's a Pakistani man. To get around that particular obstacle, Sheikh Ahmed booked the trip of his soon-to-be child bride and his Pakistani driver on a Saudi flight to Eritrea through India and the Philippines. The route that will be taken by the Saudi plane will be Bombay, Manila, and Asmara. In the end, the old man believes his smart plan shall exclude him from any culpability and absolve him of any blame if anyone in the future starts asking questions. He began rehearsing his story about how he sent her to her family in Bombay through his Pakistani chauffeur, and if he is asked where his Pakistani driver is, he would simply say that his chauffeur decided to stay in India and make his way to Pakistan. Sheikh Ahmed already planned to keep Iffat in Asmara and keep his castrated Pakistani chauffeur as her guardian angel. He has no intention of allowing Iffat a chance of falling in love with another young man and running away with him. He is going to keep the young damsel in distress in her own Barbie doll castle. Only Barbie's handsome boyfriend Ken will not be there to steal her from him, and she would be well guarded by Sabir Ibrahim Shah, his faithful Pakistani beam. To make his story more plausible, Sheikh Ahmed convinced his Pakistani chauffeur to pretend to be Iffat's mother's brother. When they both applied for visas to Eritrea, Sabir Shah claimed that Iffat Khan was the daughter of his sister Rehana Khan, who was married to a Muslim man from Pakistan by the name of Khan. But before they approached the Eritrean consulate in Jeddah, Sheikh Ahmed told Iffat another story. He told her that he was going to send her with Sabir to her mother in India. To that end, she is supposed to say that Sabir Ibrahim Shah is her mother's brother. The plan of the evil old Giza worked out perfectly, and his child bride began her trip to Eritrea. He flew to Asmara the very same day Iffat and Sabir started their long trip to Eritrea via India and the Philippines. On a direct flight, he reached his final destination before them, and he booked 2 rooms in a 5-star hotel, one for Iffat and her uncle and one for himself. He suspected that if he touched the little female child or molested her in the hotel, she might scream out and get him into big trouble with the police of Asmara, especially since she is not his wife yet. So he decided to wait until he could conduct the marriage ceremony and then move her to a safe place in the city. He is planning to buy a house in Asmara and keep his child bride as his new wife and his everlasting female sex slave. Accordingly, Sheikh Faiz Bani Ahmed bought a huge house in Asmara and transferred his to-be female child bride Iffat Khan and her fake uncle Sabir Ibrahim Shah to the home. Then he found an Eritrean Mazoon and asked him to bring 2 male witnesses to his house to conduct the marriage ceremony with his young Indian fiancée. Islamic law would not require Iffat to sign her marriage contract. According to the Sharia, a woman is utterly incompetent to enter into a marriage contract either herself or for another woman, even though her guardian would authorize her to do so. A father can contract the marriage of his virgin daughter without asking her consent, whatever her age, citing Verma 1988, page 24. Since Iffat Khan is a virgin, her consent is not required. When her mother was contracted in marriage to Sabir, the Islamic law required her consent because she was not a virgin. In some Muslim countries, a Muslim widow or a divorcee would not be forced into another marriage without her consent. When the Eritrean Mazun arrived with his two witnesses, Sheikh Ahmed and Sabir signed the marriage contract. As her uncle, Sabir is considered the guardian of Iffat Khan. The alleged messenger of God, Muhammad, said no marriage without a guardian. The Prophet said further that if a woman gets married without her guardian's consent, she is a prostitute. Somehow, Muhammad exempted himself from this law when he married Zainab bint Jahsh and Safiya bint Huway. In the case of Zainab, he claimed that Allah had married her to him, and Safiya had no one left to be her guardian because Muhammad had already killed her father, husband, brother, and entire Jewish tribe. Chapter 4. The place of women in Islam. The most dangerous place for women in the world is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The first couple of months, Rehana Khan and her daughter Iffat Khan spent in Jeddah city showed us just how dangerous it is for a woman to be without protection in a jungle full of sexual deviants. Recently, a 15-year-old Moroccan girl who went with her parents on the holy pilgrimage was brutally raped by three Saudi men. After raping her on the terrace of a hotel, they threw her body alive from the 15th floor. Her body hit the concrete asphalt street and died a horrible and cruel death on the spot. She died for her want of getting a better view of the holy city of Mecca from the terrace on the top floor. Her Moroccan parents had no idea of the violent mentality of Saudi men, and so they allowed their daughter to go alone. After all, it was just within the hotel. They mistakenly thought that they were still in Morocco. Sadly, the 15-year-old Moroccan girl like Rehana Khan was a victim of ignorance. Nothing in their lives had prepared them for the abusive nature of the Saudi Arabian men. In that society, if a woman put one leg outside her door with her other leg still inside the doorway, she would be raped. For that reason, Saudis do not like to live in a building that has many apartments in it. In the past, the Saudi government built many buildings with unbelievably beautiful and spacious apartments. The government extended it a generous invitation and asked the Bedouins to leave their desert villages and tents and come and live comfortably in the city by occupying these luxurious apartments without paying a single rial. The Bedouins refused simply because they feared that their neighbors might come in their absence and rape their daughters, sisters, and wives. It is also common for women to be raped in elevators. Saudi men, like many other Muslim men all over the world, have sexually corrupt minds because of the misogynistic teachings of their Prophet Muhammad. The greatest Muslim intellectual, scholar, philosopher, and theologian, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, in his well-renowned book, The Revival of the Religious Science, said, "Be careful of women, for their guile is eminence, and their mischief is noxious. They are immoral and mean. It is a fact that all the trials, misfortunes, and woes that befall men come from women. Therefore, following such misogynistic teaching, the Muslim man would not trust even his father and brother with his wife. This is because the Prophet Muhammad said that the in-laws are in imminent danger. The in-laws are imminent danger for the wife, and she's a death sentence for them. Muhammad himself could not control his lust when he saw his daughter-in-law, Zainab bint Jahsh, in her tent while she was half nude. She was the wife of Muhammad's adopted son, Zayd ibn Muhammad, and in the eyes of the Arabs, as good as his daughter-in-law. The Prophet Muhammad went to her house when her husband was away, saw her in a state of semi-nudeness, and was sexually aroused. According to the Sirah, the Prophet's biography, Allah sent a wind which lifted up the curtain of the tent, and Muhammad saw Zainab lying on her bed, half naked. Zainab is described by the books of biography as white, beautiful, and having a sensual, sexy body. To take her from her husband and marry her, the alleged prophet had fabricated verses in the Quran and claimed that Allah had given her to him in marriage. See Surah Al-Ahzab 33, verses 36 to 40. According to the biography, she was the only wife of the Prophet who had been married without a guardian. Her mazun was Allah, and the witness for the marriage was the angel Gabriel. Simply put, no Muslim man should trust his wife. This stems from yet another Islamic tradition. The Islamic tradition said, 4 things can never be trusted: the money, sultan, time, and woman, even if you live with her for a very long time. Quoted in Al-Qimni, Rabb al-Zaman, the Lord of this time, Woman in Religious Heritage and Legends, 1996, page 220. I know a case of a Muslim young Arab man who was doing his master's degree at the University of Bombay. While there, he married a Muslima Indian girl in Bombay. They lived in a rented apartment in the same building that I was living in at that time. Many families lived in the building. Whenever he went out, he locked the door with a huge padlock, and she remained locked up in the apartment until he returned. Some of his friends had advised him that if he was afraid of someone raping his wife in his absence, he should just ask her to lock the door from inside the apartment. They said to him she might be burned alive in case of affair. He simply replied, I lock her up every time I go out because I do not trust men around her, and I do not trust her either. To understand the misogynistic mind of the Muslim man and the law of position that Islam has blessed women, we need to refer again to the above quoted book. The Egyptian Muslim thinker Sayyid Mahmud al-Qimni said he held the Islamic heritage responsible for degrading Muslim women. Al-Qimni, Rabb al-Zaman, the Lord of this time, 1996, page 219. According to him, the Islamic religious heritage made the Muslim woman believe she had been created from a bent rib, deficient in religion and intellect. Her testimony equals half of a man's testimony. Her inheritance is half of a man's share. She cannot divorce her spouse, while her husband can divorce her anytime for a reason or without reason. Al-Qimni, page 220. The Muslim woman believes herself to be a Satan, and therefore she cannot control her sexual desires. Al-Qimni, page 221. According to Islamic heritage, woman succumbs to her lust and not intellect. She has a natural tendency to cheat on her husband because she is one of the four that could not be trusted: money, sultan, time, and woman. Al-Qimni, page 220. Women are being created for the comfort and sexual enjoyment of their husbands. In that way, the religious heritage made the Muslim woman believe herself to be a mere pussy or a vagina, and hence she called al-hurma taboo and haram forbidden. Al-Qimni, page 222. Therefore, if she kept her faith and her vagina and gave enjoyment to her master, the husband, she would enter heaven. Al-Qimni, page 220. A woman's faith could not be perfected except by her complete obedience and submission to her husband, and such obedience would secure her a place in heaven as a prostitute among the many harems of the man, the virgins of paradise. Al-Qimni, page 221. This gloomy picture that Al-Qimni depicted it of the Muslim woman irritated many Muslim female professors and scholars of Al-Azhar Al-Sharif University, who believe that Islam has honored the woman and put her in the best place. Consequently, Al-Qimni had been condemned as a kafir or a heretic by the female professor of Al-Azhar Al-Sharif University because he exposed in his book The Fascists and the Nations, the low status in which Islam put the woman, that she is inferior to men in every respect and made for the sexual pleasure of the man. The main reason for their protest is that Al-Qimni made a mistake by demanding rights for women which Islam gave to men only. Al-Qimni, page 177. Chapter 5. Practicing tying on the underage bride. When the little female child Iffat Khan contracted in marriage to the 70-year-old Saudi man Sheikh Ahmed, she was over 7 years old, almost 8 years less a month. She has no idea what marriage is. She has not even been informed that she is to become the wife of Sheikh Ahmed. The Eritrean Imam wrote the marriage contract, issued the certificate, received his money fees, and then left, followed by the two male witnesses. As soon as the Eritrean Imam and the witnesses left, the evil old man decided to imitate the example of his infallible and ungracious Prophet Muhammad. He took his 7-year-old female child bride to his bedroom and asked his Pakistani bhim to translate his first words to her. Through his interpreter, he told Iffat that she had become his wife. The underage bride could not understand what he meant by his wife. Then he told her that he was not going to harm her. He also told her that he was going to give her beautiful gifts if she agreed to remove her clothes and show him her underwear. Iffat refused. He added that he would give her beautiful Barbie dolls and golden ornaments. Therefore, he opened a cupboard and showed her some lovely dolls, golden necklaces, earrings, bangles, watches, dresses, and shoes. The child bride said she likes to have those beautiful dolls, ornaments, clothes, and shoes. She took them from his hands. While she is playing with the dolls and putting on her ornaments, the evil old geezer begins to touch her body and lustfully fills her up. Then he began to remove her dress. Iffat does not resist. She is scared that If she does not allow him to remove her clothes, he will take away the beautiful dolls and ornaments that he has given her. When he stripped her of her outer dress and left her in her underwear, the evil old man ordered his despicable beam to go out and lock the bedroom from the outside. The old geezer has prepared himself. He has various kinds of chocolates, candies, and cookies. He also purchased lovely dolls, ornaments, dresses, and shoes. He bought some games too. He filled the cupboard with every kind of attractive gift tempting to a small female child as Iffat. Then he began to coerce her with more tempting gifts. After she allowed him to remove her dress, he asked her to sit on his lap. When she refused to obey him, he showed her more dolls and chocolates. When she wanted to take them from his hand, he held them back. He used his arms to motion her to come to sit on his lap, or he would not give them to her. The little girl Iffat obeyed him and sat on his lap. When he began to feel her body, kiss her, and touch her secret private parts, she got scared and tried to run away from him. Of course, he restrained her and promised to give her more gifts. After that, he opened his garment and showed her his phallus. Iffat refused to look at his private parts, closed her eyes, and began to cry. He let go of her and allowed her to get up from his lap. He stood up, went to the child-sized cupboard, and opened all the doors and doors. Then he showed her many more dolls, ornaments, candies, and cookies. He waved his hand and invited her to come and select whatever she would like. Tempted by the beautiful gifts, Iffat went to the cupboard and began to grab whatever she liked. While she was bending over, selecting all the fascinating and colorful gifts she had never seen before and would like to have, he came from behind and began to practice the tying on her. The little Indian girl, Iffat, could not understand what he was doing to her, so she just continued to explore the cupboard. That day, the 7-year-old girl saw things she should not have seen at her age, and she was sexually abused the way no female child should ever be. Only a dirty Arab pedophile would contemplate a scheme that culminates in the ruination of an underage girl's childhood. Little by little, the evil old man blackmailed Iffat until he had accomplished his various tying of the innocent female child and ejaculated all over her backside, and his semen ran down her thighs. Then he allowed her to take her collection to go to the washroom, wash her body, and then play with her dolls. Sheikh Ahmed felt no guilt. His conscience is clear because he knows quite well that his Prophet Muhammad used to do the same thing to a 6-year-old female child bride, Aisha bint Abu Bakr. The reader might wonder why I felt the need to narrate the details of what the Saudi did to Rehana's 7-year-old child. I wanted the reader to know and feel the pain that any underage girl who gets raped by a Muslim man would experience, while the evil pedophile act is condoned, even encouraged by his example of the Prophet Muhammad via the Quran in Surah Al-Talaq 65, verse 4. To this end, I showed how the old Saudi accomplished this abominable and abhorrent deed with a female child who had no carnal knowledge and did not react, as there was no pain in the tying. The girl Iffat Khan is still a child and not developed enough, neither physiologically nor psychologically, for sex with an adult, much less one who is not inclined to be gentle. For her, it is simply a horrifying nightmare, an unbearable torture. When the evil old man began to practice real sex and rape her, she felt like someone is inserting a knife in her private parts, a deep wound tearing her up inside while she screamed. Tying was painless, and her young intuition already told her something was amiss. But a female child's resolve will crumble when coerced day after day, occasion after occasion. He tried to get her to use her hand to masturbate his phallus, failing which he resorted to harsher methods. He made her starve for many hours and refused to give her water. He locked her up in a small room and he denied her basic human needs. For more than 24 hours, he imprisoned her in a room with no lights or windows. She is not allowed the use of a washroom and has to use the same room as a toilet. Up against what must be for a small female child insurmountable odds and pressure, she agreed to do anything he willed. When she allowed him to use her hand to masturbate with him, he gave her food, cold drinks, and some pretty gifts. Every evil deviations that come into his dirty mind, he used it to satisfy his lust. What he did to her for 7 months did not only harm her physically, but it destroyed the female child within. He replaced the innocence of a female child with ugliness and shame that would have to carry with her for the rest of her life.